Back. So, a group of big-name directors have teamed up together and wrote a letter to Congress urging them to help out movie theaters that are dying, and I found it pretty interesting. Let's go through it. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So I think I should clarify this because the title I'm putting for this thing is that movie theaters are dead. And to clarify, they're not officially dead. They're dying though, desperately, and we'll get into that. We'll see just how realistic it is, how important it is, and all that stuff because I find it very interesting, and it's something that I sort of talked about in an earlier podcast, but It's interesting to see because the way that, our businesses go is the way that our country is going to go, and film is a very big business. But before we get into all of that, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Also, live streaming pretty much every day. Hours vary. Like today, I'm doing it a little bit earlier because I got plans later on today. So what can you do? But I'm aiming for 7 o'clock. I don't always make it, but I'm usually aiming for 7, 8, around that time. So if you want to join me live, ask me questions while I'm doing it and stuff like that, you can find me at Super Dario World on Twitch and on YouTube. Also, follow my Facebook page. I update everything there if you care. Like, subscribe, all that stuff really helps out. Really appreciate it. So let's get into the big interesting thing here. And first off, I need to clarify. This is very important for those of you who didn't know. The President of the United States, the POTUS, Donald J. Trump, and the First Lady, Melania Trump, have officially been diagnosed with COVID. And the last thing I heard before I started recording this is that Trump was being moved to the hospital to be for abundance of precaution. So it's not like he has to be there, but he has an office there, and so it's If I'm the president's doctor, I'm gonna be like, yeah, you go work at the hospital just to be safe. I'm not gonna be the doctor who gets Trump killed. Anyway, so I need this is very important. Everything that I'm gonna talk about afterwards, honestly, doesn't matter if things don't go well for Trump in his health. Like the way that Trump's health goes in this particular topic is the way that the country is going to go. Depending on which direction. Like it's weird to see how tied up the consequences of the next few months are tied up to one person. It's really weird, but so it's very important. Now, if I'm being honest, and if we want to talk about it a little bit, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Honestly, I think it's kind of a good thing that has happened to the country, and I know it's really weird, but let me clarify that. Well, first off, I think I need to say I wish them a speedy recovery to them, to the president, and to anybody who actually has been affected by COVID. I wish everybody a speedy recovery. Being sick sucks, and especially if it can kill you. So it's nobody wants that. But it's interesting because for the first time in maybe 4 years, I feel like the temperature has lowered. It was weird. Like I work in media, and every single time I walk in that building, I'm hearing a whole lot of negativity going around, like everywhere. There's always like something mean to be said about something. Trump is always doing something wrong. So it's doing something that pisses people off. I find that hysterical because angry people make me laugh. I don't know why. It's maybe I'm just kind of fucked up in the head, but whatever. But the first time ever, I wasn't hearing that. Like people were actually being reasonable. And I think, honestly, it's because in our heart of hearts, humans are good. Most normal people, we're good people. We don't wish evil on others. We don't wish wrong on others. I think it's kind of like a karma thing. It's like I'm not gonna say something bad about somebody else because I don't want that happening to me. Like I'm I'm not gonna laugh at this because those are words that I really don't want to eat. Have to eat later. And I was talking to a friend about this. He sent me a message like, "Dude, if I was on Twitter, I'd be making so much fun." I'm like, "Dude, I would not." Like these are like the great unifier. The great unifier of humanity is death. It's something that we're all gonna go through. And I talked about this before. Like there's four things that all living things have in their cycle, or the cycle of life has four things. You're born, you grow, you die. You reproduce and you die. And not everybody's born, not everybody grows, not everybody reproduces, but everybody dies. So it's the great unifier. And being sick in a pandemic and stuff like that is something that I guess it grounds people, brings you back to reality, and it's something that you don't want to attack because it could happen to you. So in a way, people put their knives down, and they were trying to be reasonable. I heard something that I haven't heard in 4 years, and that's Rachel Maddow from MSNBC say something kind about towards the president. Joe Biden, who was just in a fight with him, said something positive, like wishing them well, which is weird. I mean, it's the president of the United States. You think you'd wish he'd do well because if he does well, the country does well. But for the first time, and so it's weird how this is what is bringing the temperature down, but it's a good thing, I mean, ideally he survives, and he has a 95% chance to survive. And if I have 95% odds, I'm taking those odds. I don't think it's terrible odds. It's still risky, because he's overweight, because he's over 70, but good odds. So again, depending on how his health goes, is how the country is going to go. And it's funny because I think, well, I mean funny, peculiar, not haha. But the extremes, I think, have taken, well, let me see if I'm, okay. The extremes have taken a step back. So the people who are really hardcore about, what, we want everything to be locked down, blah, blah, we need to be safe. They're like, holy crap. If the president of the United States, the person that's been monitored and most closely monitored, that gets tested every day, that has like a bubble, and he doesn't talk to people who haven't been tested, can get it, that means that there's really nothing you can do to get it, to avoid getting it. And that actually translates to real life. Like, for example, in my family, the people who, other than a cousin, the people who, my immediate family, like my siblings and stuff, the people who are exposed the most, well, the person who's exposed the most is me, because I work in a restaurant, and I've always been working, I've always been moving around. And so far, I'm not sure if I got it or not, but at least if I got it, it didn't affect me. But the people who have been, let's say, the most paranoid about it and have taken the most extreme measures is actually my brother and my sister-in-law, and they got it. So it's ironic, the people who take care, that they're trying to take care of themselves the most, they got it. So really, there's nothing you can do to avoid it. Diseases do what diseases do, and if it's gonna get you, it's gonna get you. But it's interesting so the people who are in the extreme kind of like took a slight step back, and I noticed that, which is weird because you'd think it'd be pushing them in the other direction, but no, it's like, all right, I guess it's because it's a real person that they know that they got it, and it's the most public person in the world probably, and in our minds he's kind of the most protected person in the world, but because he's the most powerful man in the world. So if they can get it, anybody can get it. On the other extreme, the people who are like, I don't give a fuck about anything, fuck rules, fuck, I can do whatever I want. Now it's like, whoa, dude, if the president can get it, anybody can get it. So maybe we should be taking this a little bit more seriously. Now, again, it all depends on how his health goes. If he actually goes down for the count, or is hit severely by it, people are going to be, okay, we need to be even more careful. We need to be even more paranoid. If everybody sees that his symptoms are mild and all that stuff, we can be like, oh, even a man in his 70s who's overweight, he can still power through and all that stuff. Maybe therapeutics are working. Maybe it's not as terrible. I think things will cool down on that subject. Again, it's weird because this should not depend on the president's health. Like, this should be based on science and data. But ironically, it's going to end up being the discussion is going to be fueled 100% by one man's health. It's weird. But anyway, I need to get that out of the way specifically, because if this is the variable. This is the wild card, all right? Whoever's writing 2020 just keeps throwing fucking wild cards and curveballs everywhere. So there you go. Now you understand things might change, and but here's I'm hoping for the best, and I'm assuming the best. And if those things don't change, this is how I think it's gonna go. So first off, the letter that's been written. Well, I guess should I start with a letter? I'll start with a letter. So there was a letter that's been penned by a bunch of big name directors, and I mean a bunch. James Cameron, Christopher Nolan. Like, I can read you the whole name. Like, it's like 20 lines here. Like, let me see. Wes Anderson, Judd Apatow, Sean Baker, Noah Baumbach, Michael Bay, Barbara Broccoli. I don't know who that is. Antonio Campos, Anna McKay, Steve McQueen, Reed Romano, Christopher Nolan, David O. Russell, Todd Phillips, Guy Ritchie, Seth Rogen. There's a whole bunch of big names, of big heavyweights from the movie industry that signed this particular letter. So I'm going to go through the whole thing, and let me just do it like a theater. Let me put this image of, because the big names, honestly, the headline names here are James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, because probably the biggest director of all time, or at least the highest grossing director of all time, I think, who made two of the highest grossing films of all time, and probably the most popular director right now. So I'll keep that image there. Anyway, here's the letter, and it's a long one, so I'm going to try to just power through it. Hopefully I won't bother you too much. But all right, this is a letter from a whole bunch of film people to to Congress. So here you go. Dear Leader McConnell, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, and Leader McCarthy, thank you for your leadership at this challenging time in our country. As you consider forthcoming COVID-19 relief legislation, we ask you to prioritize assistance for the hardest hit industries like our country's beloved movie theaters. No doubt you're hearing from many businesses that need relief. Movie theaters are in dire straits, and we urge you to redirect unallocated funds from the CARES Act to proposals that help businesses that have suffered the steepest revenue drops due to the pandemic, or to enact new proposals such as the Restart Act, and they give a number there. Absent a resolution designed for their circumstances, theaters may not survive the impact of the pandemic. The pandemic has been devastating financial blow to cinemas. 93% of movie theater companies had over 75% in losses in the second quarter of 2020. If the status quo continues, 69% of small and mid-sized movie theater companies will be forced to file for bankruptcy or to close permanently, and 66% of theater jobs will be lost. Our country cannot afford to lose the social, economic, and cultural value that theaters provide. The movie-going experience is central to American life. 268 million people in North America went to the movies last year to laugh, cry, dream, and be moved together. Theaters are great unifiers where our nation's most talented storytellers showcase their cinematic accomplishments. Every aspiring filmmaker, actor, and producer dreams of bringing their art to the silver screen, an irreplaceable experience that represents the pinnacle of filmmaking achievement. As well as their critical cultural impact, theaters are economic force multipliers. In addition to the 150,000 employees working in cinemas nationwide, the industry supports millions of jobs in movie production and distribution, and countless others in surrounding restaurants and retailers that rely on movie theaters for foot traffic. Movie theaters are also leaders in employing underrepresented groups, including people with disabilities, senior citizens, and first-time job holders. Cinemas are an essential industry that represent the best that American talent and creativity have to offer, but now we fear for their future. Theaters need specific relief targeted to their circumstances. We urge you to come together on a bipartisan solution that provides this relief by reallocating unspent funds from the CARES Act towards program designs for industries like movie theaters, or by enacting new proposals such as the Restart Act. These solutions would fulfill Congress's intent in helping severely distressed sectors of the economy and ensure that our resources are focused on the industries that need them the most. Please fight for our country's beloved and essential cinemas by including relief for them in any forthcoming COVID-19 legislation. Thank you for your leadership and considering this request. Sincerely, and a whole bunch of people. So, a lot of interesting stuff there. First off, and I know what you're thinking, why didn't they make a video? Like, these are big name directors, people in the movie industry. Why didn't they make a video out of it? Why am I making a video out of it? Like, seriously, And by the way, I know that the first half I read terribly. The second half I put a little bit more oomph on it. I guess it's because I don't care about the first part was kind of like the boring stuff. I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that. But there is a lot there. And a lot of things that they say is correct. A lot of the other things that they say is kind of like, eh. And let's try to find a balance. So first off, whenever anybody is asking for money from the government, the big question there is, okay, why? And in this case, movie theaters do deserve it because their business was completely disrupted by the government. Movie theaters were operating; they weren't making as much money as before. Unfortunately, the business model has sucked for a really long time. I think movie theaters are ridiculously expensive, not necessarily because of the price of the movie. I think the price of the movie is a little high, but still, it's not terribly high. But the concession stands and all that stuff, I don't feel like you're getting as much bang for your buck. It's ridiculously expensive. So the model's been wrong for a very long time. It needed to adapt. It needed to change. It competing against Netflix. I mean, you can, for the price of one movie in a movie theater, you can have Netflix for a month and watch thousands of movies, like literally almost unlimited content. So the model was a bit outdated. It was suffering. The industry in general was suffering, and compared to previous years. So does that mean that it deserves to die because their model was wrong? Not really, because even though it wasn't as great as it was before, they found new ways around it. Some movie theaters, big chains, they had like a membership deal. So like kind of like Netflix, that you can just pay a certain amount a month and you come back here and you can watch a certain amount of movies, and that's great. So it's they were starting to adapt. They were starting to change. They were starting to do things that to bring in more customers and stuff like that. And so it wasn't going to die. Like, people like going to the movies. The people appreciate cinema and all that stuff. And there's something about watching a movie in the big screen. So it didn't deserve to die because it was a failing model. It's that the government directly put, like a stake and wrench right in the middle of the tower, one in the middle of the tires, and screwed everything up. So it's not that it died by itself; it's that it's being murdered. The weird thing here, so if the government kills your business, the government should reimburse you for that for that loss. It's like, it's not that I failed, it's not that the business model failed, is that you're killing me. Now, argue one way or the other is that they had the right to do it, if it's a good thing to do it or not. Doesn't matter. The point is, it was government that said you can't operate your business, so you're going to die. So that, in that case, I do understand, and it is fair that if the government killed you and made you lose 75% of your revenue, that they should reimburse you for it because it is somebody else's fault. That's usually what happens in law when you're suing somebody. Is like, all right, who's at fault here? Who did the damages? All right, COVID may be an act of God, but one party is directly responsible for the damages, and in this case, it would be the government. So it is legally reasonable for them to reimburse you for it. Now, I find it weird when these directors are asking for money for theaters. I find it weird and don't, because I mean, these big name directors can still stream their movies. Like, they can still put their money. Netflix will pay them to make a movie. Amazon Prime will pay them to make a movie, and they can stream them online. So they'll still make money. So I don't think it's about money for them. I sincerely think that it's about love for the art. Most people who get into film is for love for the art. And I mean, like, I know a lot of people in the movie business. Most of them, they got into it for the love of the art. Most of them struggle their entire. It's very hard to be successful in film, and so a lot of them. And I don't mean like the people who want to be on screen. I mean the people who want to work behind the scenes. They do it for the love of it. Now, again, if you're good at it, you'll be successful and you'll grow. Or if not, you'll move into different areas. But most people who are there, they do it for the love of it. They for the experience of going to a movie theater, for the love of it. So, and most artists, to be honest, most artists do it for the love of. And so I believe there's sincerity there, but if an industry is successful, it'll be taken over. Like, if the current owners can't afford it anymore, it'll go into bankruptcy, and when things open up, somebody else will buy it cheap, and they will restart the business, and the business will continue. So the business will continue. It's just, I guess, not just that the people who had it are the people who are getting screwed over, and people who made money during the pandemic or saved money during the pandemic now are getting a business in the cheap. So in that sense, I understand what is happening, and it makes perfect sense to me, and it's reasonable. Some things are a little weird. Some things, like, honestly, instead of asking for, well, yes, you need the money, but I would be asking for things to open up more. Like, the restrictions are a little bit crazy, and they're not making their money back on streaming. It's weird. Like, for example, like Bill and Ted came out on August, what was it, August 28th? It made $32 million from video on demand, which is not nothing, but compared to a theatrical release, it's nothing. So let's do a little math. It's estimated that the budget of the film was $25 million, and it only made $32 million on video on demand. So if you add marketing budget there, I don't know how much it's going to be, but I don't think the movie actually made much. So it's not a total flop, but it's in a time where nothing else was going on. So you need to keep that in mind. There's nothing going on, and people still would not stream the movie in their house. It's weird. I think it's most people know, well, eventually it's going to stream for free, so I can just wait, right? Why spend money in the middle of a pandemic? Anyway, came out on a really odd time, but let's do a little bit of math. So Bill and Ted Face the Music came out, and on theaters, it's estimated that actually opened up in theaters at 1,007 movie theaters since August 28th, and it won $3.3 million in the domestic box office, okay? So domestic box office, $3.3 million with 1,000 theaters. So let's do the math. I like doing math, so let's do the math. And I'm putting the calculator here on screen so you can follow along with me. So you got $3 million, right? $3 million divided by 1,007 cinemas. That is $3,277 per theater that it opened. Now, let's assume that it cost you $10 a ticket. So you divide that by 10. That means that 327 people per theater saw this movie. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a movie theater, but in one single theater, you can fit 300 people, 200 to 300 people. So it's nothing. The movie made nothing in theaters. So this brings us to another interesting conundrum. Now, as I said earlier before, it's not fair that that government forced you to shut down. However, since we're in a pandemic, does that mean that people would have gone to the movie theaters at all? Like, if government wouldn't shut down or anything, would people have still gone to the movie theaters? That's the question. And I don't know if you know this, the will of the people are what the people are willing to do. So if I'm worried about my health, I'm not going to go to the theater. So your business would have died anyway. So it's one of those chicken or egg thing. Like, here it's very clear because the government gave you the order. However, if the government hadn't given the order and people naturally just don't go because they don't want to risk their health, your business would have died anyway. So it's one of those bizarre situations. But then again, is it possible that the reason why people aren't going to movie theaters is because they're afraid, because the government are still putting the shutdowns because, you know, and making you afraid for your life? Now, I've talked a lot about this, that if you're in a certain age range, you shouldn't really be worried about it. Like in my age range, and with me, I have no pre-existing conditions. I have 1 in 50,000 shots of this killing me. Like 1 in 50,000. I have 1 in 109 chances of dying in a car crash. And so if I'm not going to stop driving my car. So there's risks you're willing to take. And I've made this argument before, but I'll do it again for those of you who are saying, yeah, but the risk here is you're going to make somebody else sick. Yeah, I can still run somebody else over with my car. Like, I can still kill somebody else with my car. So you take risks in life. There's absolutely no guarantees in life. We live under a strange facade of safety that doesn't exist in the natural world. Again, we have one sure thing in life, and that's that we're going to die. All right? It's a guarantee. And there's absolutely no safety anywhere. Now, we live under a facade of safety. For example, I think that I'm safe here in my apartment, but there's absolutely no guarantee telling me that a crazy person won't break down my door and, you know, just kill me and take my stuff, like for my equipment. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that a mosquito won't kill you. There's no guarantee. You know what? you can die. Like a mouse can kill you, and it's probably not in the way you think. It's funny. I have a pet snake. I have a ball python, and my sister is like terrified of it, and I'm telling her like, no, she's 100 times more scared of you than you are of it. Like, it's the only way. Like, this thing, if it bites you, it can't eat you, so it won't even try to kill you because it can't eat you. It'll probably try to run away or curl up in a ball because it's scared. It's scared that you're gonna eat it. And honestly, the most probable way that this little ball python could kill you is if you choke trying to eat it. And that's the most likely way a mouse could kill you if you're trying to eat it. So, you take risks in life. Nothing is safe. Like, even like a mouse can kill you, a mosquito can kill you, an invisible virus can kill you. Anything can kill you. We're very fragile beings. Everything, absolutely everything is poisonous. It all depends on dosage. Too much oxygen, you're dead. Too much water, you're dead. Too much meat, you're dead. Every single thing in this planet can kill you. There's absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, that can give you more life. It can prevent your death, but it won't give you more life. So, we live under a facade of safety, and that makes us feel better. That's good for the economy and all that stuff. But if you're actively telling people, don't go out there because it's unsafe, the world is unsafe, the world is a cruel place, then people won't go. And so, again, we're back into the chicken and the egg dilemma. Is it that people aren't going to the movies because there's the fear, or is it that people would not have gone naturally because they would have been afraid? Does that make sense? Well, it's fear because of the lockdowns, or is it the fear that's being created by the lockdowns, or is it that the fear would have naturally have stayed there? Again, we can't rewrite things. We don't know how things would have been acted differently. We don't know. However, we do have evidence that people are ready to move on. And now I will bring you to the Tenet box office numbers. Now, Tenet, for those of you who don't know, is the newest Christopher Nolan film. It's great. I already made a review of it. If you wanna check that out, it's in a different podcast. I believe I did it. What was it, Monday? If you want to check that out. But let me give you the numbers. So the numbers, domestic box office for Tenet domestically, and it came out almost a month ago. So it's been 4 weeks. It's made $41 million. $41 million in almost 3,000 theaters. So, I mean, do you want to do the math again? Let's do the math again. So you got $41,200,000 and divided by, what was it? Let me just check the number again. 2,930 theaters. Done. So it made $14,061 per theater. So again, assuming it costs $10 per ticket, 1,400 people went to see this movie per theater in the United States. So there's way more interest in going to see it than there was interest to go see Bill and Ted, and they came out in similar times. Now, I guess you could make the argument that the reason why people didn't go see Bill and Ted is because Tenet came out, I guess. But here's the kicker, and here's the interesting part, and here's the really interesting number. Internationally, this movie has made $243 million. $243 million. So worldwide, the grand total is $284 million. Oh, well, and 900,000. So almost $285 million. Which, for a movie, what was the budget for this movie? Let me see. Well, it doesn't matter. That's a successful film. That's a hit. All right, you made over $100 million. That's a hit. It's a quarter. It's more than $250 million. It's a hit, and so clear. And you compare the domestic numbers to the international numbers. Clearly, there's a hunger to go back to movie theaters. So, is the problem that movie theaters aren't fully open? Is it the problem that some areas of the country they're not letting them open up? Like, is the demand there? Pretty much. Is the demand there and it's being stifled? Or is the demand not there and that's why the numbers are low? Now, there's many ways to look at it. There's a lot of speculation you want to do. And if you want to ask me, based on my experience on going to see Tenet, that was the first time I actually went back to the movie theater. I don't think there's anything to worry about at movie theaters at all. They're taking care of their stuff. It's big spaces. Like, I don't know if it's worth it to keep such a big theater open sometimes, but I believe that the argument that they should have made on this later is to ease up restrictions more than anything else. Like some of these restrictions are crazy, and so I think it's a little bit better to ease up on those to allow the business to flourish. Because again, I could be wrong, and it also you have to put into account the fact that no movies are coming out. Like there's really no good movies coming out. Maybe until Dune comes out at the end of the year, maybe. But other than that, like most of the other, and then that's another argument. We're not making good movies anymore. It's all just sequels or remakes and stuff like that. So like Bill and Ted is a remake. No, Bill and Ted is a sequel to something. Dune is a remake, and so maybe again, maybe the model has to change. So I don't know. The point is, right now, as things are, if nothing changes, movie theaters, well, the current movie theaters that we have will die, and it'll be an artificial death. It won't be a natural death like other businesses that naturally fizzle out like Blockbuster. It'll be a government-induced death. And that's not fair. I'll be honest, that's not fair. I don't think it should even be legal. And so something needs to change if for that to be allowed to continue. So again, I don't completely agree with the letter that they signed and certain things, but I do believe that it's important. The important things that they talked about is first off, the economic value of going to the movies. It's true. Most people, when they go out on a date, it's, hey, let's go out dinner and a movie. So it's good for the restaurant. If you're going out and having a few drinks, then you'll probably get an Uber. So it's good there. Then you go to the movies and you're paying for that. So it's good. You're stimulating the economy in many ways. And the cultural value, it's actually extremely important. I believe that art is extremely important in general for the culture and for expressing the ideas of the time and for leaving a imprint of the. It's actually pretty interesting. You can actually tell a lot about a particular culture by looking at the art of their time. You can tell like the way they were thinking. Like for example, like realism tells you the way that a particular time period saw the world. Like they valued reality a little bit more. If you go to the abstract ones, they're like, no, reality's boring. Let's go to expand our minds for weird, crazy ideas and stuff like that. So, it's different. Like I'm not an art major. I don't expect me to break that down. It's weird because I think, I am a film dude, but I'm not an art major. The point is, like, you can study. It's pretty funny. Like you could study like German films before WW2 or leading up to WW2, and you could be like, oh yeah, I can see how this led to that. I can understand. I can see the state of mind of this particular group of individuals in this time period that could have it's really dark. Like it's German something. It's not German expressionism. It's really dark. It's really fucked up. And so again, it's important culturally, it's important economically, and it's important that things go back to normal little by little. And it's the funny thing is that once you allow people the opportunity to do things, they'll go back to normal like that. You might be a little bit skeptical, but immediately, as soon as they have the opportunity, they'll go like that. People forget really quickly. Like I mentioned this before. I work at a restaurant. People, when they walk in, you can tell it's the first time they've been out of their house in forever. And so they walk in, they're wearing the mask, they're very nervous. First off, it's hysterical because this happens to me a lot. You get out of your car and you forget your mask and you're like, fuck, God fucking damn it. And you got to go back. And that happens, once you start getting comfortable, you forget about that. But the people who do it the first time, oh no, they got their mask. And they come into the restaurant and they're like, oh, they're trying to be respectful, they don't want to touch anything. And then once they sit down, whether they have a drink or not, they forget. They take off the mask. They're relaxed. They're comfortable, and they go to the restroom, forget to put their masks on. They talk to you they'll hand you stuff, and you're like, you're not really supposed to be, like, apparently by the rules. And so, I as soon as we have the opportunity for things to go back to normal, they will very quickly. And this is actually pretty funny. And I mentioned this before. The will of the people is what the people are willing to do. I don't think that the government is interested in you being alive more than you're interested in being alive. So I trust you in taking care of yourself, in taking care of your life, more than I trust the government to take care of you. Also, it's funny, again, going back, will the people, what people are willing to do. In El Cajon, where I work at the restaurant, The mayor basically said, yeah, you know what? Do whatever you want. Like, we don't care what the state says. Local police is not going to arrest you. Local police is not going to do anything. So we want your businesses to come back. We want you to have a normal life. Just try to be safe. This is what we know. Don't be stupid. Try to protect yourself. Try to protect others. But we're not going to keep you locked down because our city's dying. All right? Not only is the virus isn't killing you as quickly as the lockdown is. That I'm paraphrasing. Also, I'm adding other stuff, but that's pretty much what he said. And so once that was said, most of the businesses were like, okay, and we go back to normal. And the reaction from the people is the most interesting thing. Because I've mentioned that thing to people who don't live or work in El Cajon, and they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. This is going to make the numbers explode, blah, blah. But the people in El Cajon, they're more relaxed. They're more chill. I haven't heard a single person complain about having to wear a mask now because they're doing it naturally. It's weird. Americans are contrarians. It's like, do this. No, fuck you. I won't. To quote Rage Against the Machine, fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. You know who said that before? I believe it was the colonists to the British. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do it. Like, Americans are known for saying that. Like, it's been from the beginning. And so the easiest way is like, take your life in your hands. Or at least I think so. I have enough respect for people and their will to stay alive. And so again, at the end of the day, the will of the people is what the people are willing to do. If you're willing to go to movie theater will survive. If you're willing to go out to a restaurant, the restaurant will survive. If not, then you will survive, I guess, in a way. But are you really going to be alive? Or are you really going to be living? I don't know. So those are all, I guess, personal questions. And just one little tidbit extra that really doesn't have to do much with anything. But it's interesting news, and it's related because the dude's been on screen for a really long time. So James Cameron has confirmed that that filming for Avatar 2 is 100% complete. And I guess I'll just read you the quote. The day we deliver Avatar 2, we'll start working on finishing Avatar 3. So where we're at right now, I'm down in New Zealand shooting. We're shooting the remainder of the live action. We've got about 10% left to go. So we're 100% complete on Avatar 2, and we're sort of 95% complete on Avatar 3. So there you go. At least those movies will be done, and I believe that they will stay on schedule even though they've been delayed for a long time. But if you cared or if you were interested at all, there you go. You're welcome. So I believe that's a good place to stop. I mean, I've been ranting for a while, and I don't honestly. At one point, I kind of blacked out. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But there you go. Hopefully, you enjoyed that. As always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. It's again live streaming pretty much every day. If you want to join me, Monday through Friday, I'm doing it on YouTube at Super Dario World and on Twitch at Super Dario World. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time.